Welcome to Justice for, a true crime podcast hosted by two besties from Colorado. We're focused on bringing justice to the victims by telling their stories. New episodes release every single Tuesday, so make sure to hit that subscribe button and the follow button anywhere that you can find us, and you'll get updates on all of our new episodes.
Just a warning, this podcast does contain adult language and adult themes, such as assault and abuse of varying forms, so please listen and watch with discretion. Hey y'all, and welcome back to Justice For. We're your hosts. I'm Jackie.
And I'm Sam. So you're mostly going to hear from me today because this is a story I'm super passionate about. I also have multiple friends who live down in the area that this took place in, and they stressed that I needed to put this story on our show. So the case today is one of the most controversial cases the U.S. has seen and is still very heavily talked about today. With that, though, I know you've already heard it, but I'm going to put another trigger warning in here. We are going to be discussing suicide and bodily harm. There are many graphic photos and discussions as well. So please view, listen, all of the above with discretion. I know that we've heard a lot of cases recently that are happening that are bringing up corruption and possible cover-ups by those who vowed to serve and protect the people around them, aka the police. Unfortunately, this seems to be a common occurrence as of late, but it isn't a new phenomenon in the world of true crime. Today, we're going to be talking about the case of Kendrick Johnson. Again, this is a very controversial, and I've heard from both sides. So I'm going to do my absolute best to give you all of the information, and you can decide for yourself how you feel and what you really think happened. So the story starts out in Lowndes County, Valdosta, Georgia. This town has a reputation of being a super racist town. It has also been called the Deep South.
Okay.
Yeah. It's also on the border of the Florida Panhandle. So
All right.
very, very south.
Very deep south.
Yes, absolutely. The story centers around Kendrick Johnson. His family calls him KJ. I will also be referring to him as KJ, since there's a lot. His entire family starts, their first name always starts with a K, and then they're the Johnsons, so it's KJ, except for his mom. She's the only difference here. So with that, his parents, the names are Jackie
Hey.
and Kenneth Johnson. I do bring them up often. So I will be referring to them as Jackie and Kenneth, and Kendrick as KJ. So Jackie, KJ's mom, describes him as a sweet soul, very sweet, and just the light around their house. Kendrick was 17 years old, and he had so many people in his life speak so highly of him for only being 17. I feel like most teenagers are very outlandish.
Teenagers?
Yeah,
Like,
but
there's rare ones that are just,
yeah.
nobody has anything bad to say about them.
Well, Kendrick was one of those rare ones. He was spoke about so highly by all of his friends, all of his family. It's absolutely crazy. Even most of his friends have walls dedicated to him in their home. They're covered in photos and drawings, poetry, and
Oh, wow.
and his sports memorabilia. With that, he ran track, he played basketball, but his main love was football, which is cool.
Okay.
So, let's go back to January 10th of 2013. We're going back pretty far.
And I do want to say, I have listened to a podcast episode about Kendrick. It was about a year or two ago, and I did go ahead and dive on him a little bit afterwards. He has always stuck with me. I have not forgotten him, and I have been wanting to revisit and go back into him. So I'm really glad that you brought this one up.
Absolutely. And I did a super deep dive, so there might be stuff in here you don't know about.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Yes. So again, let's go back to January 10th of 2013. KJ again was 17, but he was a sophomore at Lowndes High School. We do a lot at the school. Students had just returned to school a few days prior from winter break. This school has block days. I don't know if your high school did.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so certain days had longer periods instead of all of their classes in one day. So,
Ours were like Wednesday, Thursday were
yeah.
block days. And so you had like, they were, for my school, it was red or gold days. And you
Oh.
only had 3 classes on one day and 4 classes on the other day. But they were hour and a half long classes.
Yeah, that makes sense. Ours was Tuesday, Wednesday, and it was like odd days, even days. So even numbered periods, odd day.
Yeah.
So they had this, if you don't know about block days, that's essentially what it is. So Kendrick was planning on staying after school to watch a freshman basketball game at the school. They had two gyms, a small gym, which they considered the old gym, and then the new gym, which was just like a bigger one, things like that. So this game was specifically going to be in the small gym. When he didn't come home, his mom started worrying since he wasn't like that at all. So right away, his mom knew what was up. She started driving around and looking for him. Kenneth, his dad, is a truck driver, so he wasn't even in home, like in town at the time.
Okay.
However, he said when he received the call that KJ was missing, he instantly headed home.
What parent wouldn't?
Absolutely. Letitia Stock.
Okay. Other than her.
Well, when KJ still wasn't home the next morning, Jackie, his mom, decided to go to the school to see if he showed up there. Maybe he just stayed at a friend's house. Of course, she goes to the school. She spoke to the admin at the school to see if they had seen him. They said he didn't show up, they haven't seen him, and he didn't show up to his third or fourth period class the day prior.
So he was already missing before his parents knew he was missing.
Yes.
Okay.
Which to me, like if I skipped a period, my mom knew that day.
Oh, yeah. It didn't matter if it was first period or seventh period.
Yeah.
There was a phone call.
I never got away with shit, let me tell you.
I did when I answered the phone first.
Lucky you.
Hmm.
Anyway, so when she found out that he didn't make the classes, she was then approached by some other teachers and was told, "Hey, we found a body in the gym."
I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
That's such a nonchalant sentence for what happened.
Yes. But of course, they didn't confirm it was KJ. It was just we found a body in the gym. Jackie knew instantly.
Well, yeah, her son hasn't been home and he missed third and fourth period.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to back up just a little bit
Yeah.
to when they actually found the body. There were some students in the gym that said, "Oh, we see something white sticking out of the top of one of the mats." So they're like, "Okay, oh, let me back up." So all of the mats are vertical, like wrestling mats.
Are they like
They
rolled
were
up or are they
rolled.
like the accordion stacking ones?
They're rolled.
Okay.
They're rolled up ones and they're stacked vertical. They're not laying down anything like that.
Yeah, like you would do before like gymnastic meets or wrestling meets. I used to help them unroll those all
Yeah.
the time.
Yes. So they saw something white sticking out of the top of one of those mats. They got closer and they realized it was socks. And then they're
Okay.
like, "Oh, those socks are attached to some feet." Yep.
Didn't you say Kendrick played football?
Yep. And basketball.
So he's a bigger kid, right?
I will get into that in a moment.
Okay.
We'll touch on that in a moment. So, when the students saw this, they called the teacher over and they brought the mat down on its side. They immediately smelled vomit and decomp. They also saw some blood and then they found the body of Kendrick Johnson. So, quick backstory before I get into the autopsies, things like that. This gym was the smaller gym. It had bleachers in it.
Okay.
And they were like smaller bleachers, so maybe 2 or 3
Not like the ones that pull out from the wall and you can move
Correct.
back, right?
Yeah, they're ones that you're just in there, but you
Okay.
can there's like 3 rows on them.
All
They're
right.
not very high. And this part's weird to me, but like the school itself, you had to pay for lockers in the gym. I
What?
know. Yeah. They made students pay to have lockers.
Okay.
I know. So most kids like, we're not doing that. We're not going to pay for lockers at this school. So a lot of people would throw stuff into those mats because they were always in the gym to keep things safe. People didn't mess with it. But I ain't paying
Like
for no
in
locker
them or like on top of them?
in them. Since they were
Okay.
rolled up, it kind of just went in.
Yeah.
And also some of the mats would be vertical, like just falling down. And so they would just throw stuff in there and people would leave them alone.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So it's just easy to tuck stuff in and take it out.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I feel like most kids were just like, that's not mine. I'm not going to take it, but I'm not paying for no locker, which I understand.
Yeah, it's kind of just
So silly.
like a honor system between all of them because no one was paying for these lockers.
Yeah. And there were some sources that said KJ and another student were sharing a pair of shoes at the time, and they would just generally leave them in the mat for each other.
Okay.
Yeah. So it makes sense why he's near some mats, you know?
Yeah.
He also, we'll get into this a little bit later, but he was having a gym class around the time that he was last seen on the security footage. So it makes sense again why he was going in the gym to get the shoes.
So it says gym class, the last class he's actually marked in class for attendance.
I'm honestly not sure. Sources didn't say that part.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it was probably the class he was heading to.
Okay.
And that's why he initially went in there.
Perfect.
Yeah. So before I said they had just returned from winter break, and during winter break, all of the gyms were cleaned and organized. So all those mats were picked up and they were all standing vertically over in the corner in the gym.
Okay.
Yeah, against a wall. So back to his body being found. As soon as his body was found, oh, you're going to get so mad about some of this. Ugh. So the sheriffs instantly held, like within an hour or so, they instantly held a press conference saying, oh, this was an accident. There's no foul play. There's no trauma, nothing. It's just an accident.
I'm sorry, within an hour?
Yeah.
An hour.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay.
it gets worse. We'll get into this, okay? But first off, let me talk to you about what they said was the cause of death. So, the autopsy was done by Dr. Bill Watson. He was the coroner within Valdosta. He determined the cause of death to be positional asphyxiation from being upside down in the mat, and it was ruled an accident. This specific cause of death is very, very rare, and it actually wasn't even considered a cause of death until 1992.
Holy crap.
Yes. So I did a little deep dive on it because with it being such a new cause of death, like, and it's rare, it's so rare. Let me tell you how rare. So there was a review of files of the pathology section of forensic science essay over 17 years. So from January 2003 to December of 2019 revealed only 32 adult cases of positional asphyxia.
And can I guess that most of them are in chimneys?
No, actually. So,
Oh,
yeah, 25 of them were considered overweight or obese.
okay.
So, if you're super overweight and obese, you can essentially suffocate yourself if you lay a certain way, things like that. So, that was 78% of the cases.
Okay.
Only 7 of them had been below normal or normal weights, which is 22%. And KJ was he was very tall. He was 6 foot tall, but he was a tiny. He was a little tiny baby.
Oh, he was tiny?
Yeah, but he was athletic.
Okay.
Remember, he's super into
Yeah, I
sports.
thought that he had like a bigger build, but no, not you say
Mm-mm.
that. No, he was a smaller build. I do remember
Yeah.
his dad saying he was smaller than he was.
Yes, absolutely. So it's A lot. Most cases, though, of positional asphyxiation are infants, like when they fall asleep in a car or their head will fall and cut off their airway.
Why you're not supposed to have an infant sleep in a car seat because the way
Yep.
their chin gets tucked.
And they generally call it SIDS.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's rare for an adult. I know Kendrick was a teenager, but he's considered an adult size. So there's a lot of debate with it, whether that this cause of death should actually be considered a cause of death, just because of the rarity of it. He was also upside down in that mat for 21 hours.
21 hours?
Yeah, yeah.
So, let me get this straight. The kids could notice something white sticking out the top of a mat, but the janitor who came back through to clean the small gym never noticed anything out of place, even though it just been cleaned for winter break and organized. I'm I'm just saying,
Or any teachers. There was also,
yeah,
it was the middle of the day. So there was classes after,
yeah,
but no one saw anything.
okay, okay.
Allegedly. Allegedly. So they essentially said that his body was cutting off any air that may have been coming in because of how he was so squished inside that mat.
Okay.
Let me tell you about the crime scene a little bit because there's a lot of things that bother me. So it bothered a lot of other people as
Oh,
well.
I've got questions.
Oh, yeah. All right. So the crime scene itself, none of the officers, investigators, anything like that were wearing covering on their shoes.
None of them?
None of them. They also never blocked off the crime scene, so there was no tape in sight. Yep. People could come and go as close to the body as they wanted, and they did. They absolutely did. And when paramedics showed up, they came to the scene and asked, like, why is this not taped off? Like, if we feel like this should be taped off as a homicide, that's how bad it was. But the police were like, nope, it's not an accident. Or it is an accident. I'm sorry. This is just an accident. There's no homicide. It's fine.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, most of the evidence that was even at the scene was not collected or stored at all. We'll get into more evidence later, but there was a sweater and other pairs of shoes in the gym. None of it was collected. Also, the shoes that KJ was wearing and going after were never collected either. Yep.
Because the police just didn't think it was a homicide. They thought it was an accident from the beginning.
Yep.
So I hate when this happens in
Yeah,
cases. I hate when dumb detectives, police officers, just screw it up in the very beginning.
absolutely. So, also, investigators waited 5 hours after they found the body to call the coroner.
5 hours?
5 hours. This is also illegal in Georgia, and I can read to you what it says. It's wild. So, the official code of Georgia states upon receipt of the notice required by Code Section 45 16 24, the coroner or county medical examiner shall immediately take charge of the body.
Why did we wait so long?
I don't know. Even the coroner said it was weird. So, let's get into all of the evidence. So, first off, the wrestling mats are 6 feet tall. By the way, I made a mistake earlier. Kendrick was not 6 foot tall. The mats were 6 foot tall. Kendrick is about 5'10, 5'11.
Okay.
Okay. So it's pretty comparable.
Yeah.
It's not terribly off. So the mats, again, are 6 foot tall and 3 feet wide across. And the hole of the mat that he was inside of was 14 inches in diameter.
That's it?
Yeah. And his shoulder width is 19 inches.
Oh, so we
Yes.
squeezing.
We squeeze in. And when he was found, when they unrolled him from the mat, he had one hand above him about like this, and the other one was down at his side.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you look at it both ways, one person can say he was reaching for, because so the reason he even went into the mat was to get the shoes
That he
that
shared
his
with that
that
kid.
he shared with his
Yeah.
friend. So, if you think about it, he was could have been reaching for the shoe and got stuck.
Okay. I mean, when you're trying to reach for something with just one hand, you want to get that leverage, so you
Yeah.
just kind of, okay.
But he was only an inch or two shorter than the mat itself.
Yeah, in order for you to get into that, like he's gonna have to be shimmying and wiggling, and you can't really do that with one arm.
Yes. So let's get in further into the evidence. So the shoes, the specific shoes he was going after, as well as the ones that he was wearing. The shoes he was wearing that day were white and orange. Okay.
Okay.
And they were not on his feet inside of that mat, they were like tucked behind his knees, like
So the
behind
shoes
his
that he
legs.
wore to school, not the ones that he was going after for gym.
Correct. The shoes that he was going for in the bottom of the mat were black and white.
Okay. And
So,
both shoes were down there?
no.
Okay.
One of them was down there. The other one was kind of like off.
Okay.
Yeah. So at the bottom of the mat, when they moved the mat, there was like pooling at the bottom of the mat, gravity, it happens.
Yeah.
And it was blood and fluid at the bottom that was pooled. And the shoe that he was reaching for in the evidence photos was on top of the blood, but had absolutely zero blood on it.
How can you be reaching for a shoe, asphyxiate, bleed,
And vomited.
and vomited while asphyxiating, and
In that
reaching for the
small,
shoe
yes, in that small
in a
of an
14
area.
inch hole, and you have, and the shoe's on top of all of that?
The shoe was on top of the pool and there was nothing on it.
Okay.
So a lot of people speculated that he maybe was like holding it and dropped the shoe when he went unconscious, and that's why it did that. But I'm still not sure how it would, like, even if that happened, how it stayed so clean. Like, that
Right,
doesn't
because
make
he
sense
could
to
have
me.
been dripping.
Yeah. So again, the uh, white and orange sneakers that were behind him were also clean. Why they were behind his legs,
And not on his feet.
yeah, that also doesn't make sense. But like playing devil's advocate here is maybe if this was an accident and he was stuck inside of that mat and he was trying to pull himself out, you're going to use your heels the most. Your shoes might come off
I mean,
and
that would
push it
explain
down.
that, but them tucked underneath his body like that in
Yeah.
such a small area, it would be really hard to be maneuvering and to have those in there. I would think that you would be trying to use the rubber on your heels to get out, and then
Yeah.
you realize you need more space, so maybe we kick the shoes off, they're gonna go flying out, and then you're gonna try to do some stuff,
But not
but
behind
not,
you.
I don't see them falling down and wedging behind you as you're trying to get out.
Yeah. It just didn't make sense. So also in the gym there was black and orange sneakers that were not KJs and they were found and they had blood on them.
Where were they found?
Just later, like further away in the gym, in the same gym.
Okay.
Yes. Investigators also said that the stain on the shoe was not actually blood, but they never collected it and they never tested it.
So how do they know that it wasn't blood?
They're just saying it wasn't blood.
I feel like they like to just say
Yeah.
a lot of things.
So I also mentioned that there was a sweater that was found that also appears to have blood on the like cuff of it, but it was also never collected
I
or
was gonna say,
tested.
can I guess it was never collected and tested?
Nope. Nope. There was also more blood found in the gym, like on the wall. There was like splatters of it.
Okay, so to go back to, there were classes that happened after this in that gym,
Mhm.
and no one noticed all of this other stuff.
Mhm.
Okay.
I mean, again, a lot of kids left stuff in that gym, so maybe seeing other shoes or a sweater didn't faze them.
But the blood on the wall, that's
It wasn't a lot of blood, and it was behind the mats.
okay.
So, there was also blood found in the girls' bathroom on the paper towels. Yes, but none of the blood on the wall or the bathroom were matched to Kendrick at all, but they never tested it any further other than saying it's not KJ's. We're not going to test it any further.
Okay.
Yep. So, KJ's family, livid. Totally understandable, right?
I would be.
They didn't get to see him right away. They wouldn't let Jackie go and see her son. It was just confirmed that it was KJ. This is your son. He's dead in the gym. Sorry.
Um, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Even if the school can make a positive ID, don't you need a family member to positively ID the body?
They went to do that in the coroner's office 5 hours later. Maybe longer than that because that's when he was called.
But we're
So,
already confirming that it's him, saying that and saying it's an accident before his mom has ever even seen him.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep. So, the Johnson family. The Johnson family is so adamant and fighting so hard for justice for him. They ended up releasing every single photo from the crime scene, from the autopsy, and everything in between. His dad even took a picture of him because he has like the same length,
Shoulder.
like, yeah, build. I mean, he's a little bit bigger than KJ was, but he has the same like width of shoulders. So he tried to squeeze himself into a mat, and there was a picture of it.
This is something that I
Yeah.
really remember from listening to this episode the one time I did, or listening to an episode on this. Um, remember drawing a little circle and seeing like if I could scrunch myself. It's
Yeah,
really hard. It's
it is.
such a tiny space. And good on his family for releasing everything because the
Yeah.
police are obviously very incompetent.
They wanted to release every single picture. They wanted everyone to see these photos and the brutality within how KJ died.
Oh, the
And
photos are awful.
they are awful. They are so graphic. Like, I will never get these images out of my head for sure.
No.
But the families insist that he was beaten to death due to the swelling on his face. And that was honestly the first time, though, that they saw him was after the autopsy. And during autopsies, you probably know this. Hopefully, you guys do. But if you don't know about autopsies, they cut into your brain and they have to pull your skin essentially away from the skeletal part of it. And so it swells up and it just kind of becomes loose. And so I think that's what they were really seeing was just how loose his skin was and the swelling of it. It was very, very rough. But
But
then again,
even
go ahead.
for that,
Yeah.
it is still it even like the skin does make his face look bigger,
Hmm.
but I really think all that trauma and stuff was done.
Yeah,
What you're seeing a lot of.
absolutely.
Like that adds to it, but it's not the cause of why his face looks like that.
Yeah, it's a big portion of it. But I mean, I understand his family being so reluctant on him being beaten and how brutal it was because it's rough. And this is their first time they're seeing their son, which is such a drastic difference from how he was day to day that I don't blame them whatsoever for being this way. But that is the first picture they released, also that first autopsy photo. And a lot of people felt misled by it because again, they felt like they were misled into it was just this brutal beating and that's all it was. And there's nothing else at play here when they didn't describe the autopsy, everything like that. So a lot of people feel misled, but I also understand why they wanted to release it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the family has released many, 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 many further photos since. Unfortunately, after all of this, so again, this happened in January. In June of 2013, June 22nd, KJ was exhumed and they had a second autopsy done. This one was performed by Dr. William Anderson. There was a bruise on KJ's on KJ's neck and near the carotid sinus, which is the sinus that delivers freshly oxygenated blood from the heart to the brain. And when this is cut off or injured, it signals your heart to start slowing down or to stop completely. This also showed that the cause of death was actually blunt force trauma and it was not accidental.
Okay. I'm not shocked,
Yeah.
but at least there is an official who is starting to see this for what it is.
The paramedics from before also reported they saw bruising on the right side of his jaw as well. Dr. Anderson said that it was weird that there was no fluid in his lungs and that his lungs were normal weights. He specifically said, and I quote, "When someone is trapped in a position or place where they can't breathe over a period of time, their muscles begin to weaken and wear out, so they're not breathing as well. This causes the heart to start failing and fluids to build up in the lungs. More and more fluid in the lungs basically suffocates them." But his were fine. So, also, when he was doing this autopsy, Kendrick's organs were all missing.
What?
Yes, his organs were gone.
Well,
It had,
normally they like put them back.
they put it into a bag and they put it in the body.
Yes. And then they stuff the other parts with like newspaper sometimes. If you're embalming and like doing a viewing and all the okay, we can cut that out. I'm sorry.
So, actually, he was stuffed with newspapers.
Oh my God, was he?
Yeah.
Oh.
Kendrick was completely stuffed with newspapers, and it's believed that the funeral home was actually just cutting corners since they're the ones that offered to handle his body and do the whole process for free. Yes, the funeral home had also signed a document saying they received everything, including his organs, when he was delivered there, but then later said the body was received without the organs. So that document is gone. It's either lost, it was destroyed, or they just signed everything without even looking to see if it, like, doing an inventory of it.
This is all really convenient.
It's very strange. So, Antonio Harrington was told, this is a news reporter.
Okay.
Okay. He was told by the death investigator with the GBI, so Georgia Bureau of Investigation, which conducted the autopsy, that Johnson's viscera or internal organs were disposed of during the autopsy due to the decomp. He also justified the funeral's home use of newspaper to stuff Johnson's body, saying it is in conformity with burial protocol.
Okay. So like it's only a little bit weird. They probably just didn't actually check all the inventory, so we don't know if the organs really went or not.
Yeah. Well, he confirmed that they were destroyed, but the family has to release that
Okay.
for them to be destroyed. But the fact that he was stuffed with newspaper, though, because it's not against protocol, but there's better ways to go
Yeah,
about it.
and when you have the bag of organs to put back in there anyway, why would you do that?
Yeah, absolutely. They also stated that they received all of his clothes and that then all of a sudden they were mysteriously missing.
Like the funeral home received them all?
Yeah.
Okay.
But all of his clothes were missing, so none of it could be retested.
I need this funeral home to be more organized.
At least it's not a Colorado funeral home.
That's what I was thinking at the time.
So, with these autopsy results, it basically got the FBI to finally reopen the case and do an investigation in October of 2013. So, over 10 months after KJ was found. Yes. So, Halloween 2013, FBI enters the chat. They also finally got the CCTV footage. CCTV footage from the school. And
it took 10 months for them to pull the footage.
I think they pulled it before, but the FBI finally has it and is going through it. They also had a forensic video specialist look into the footage and confirmed that they were not the original copies and that someone had altered the videos. I know. There was also 4 cameras inside of that gym.
And let me guess. they don't save recordings or they weren't working.
They were all working.
Oh, I'm shocked.
Yeah, all of them were working. But there was footage missing.
Of course there was.
hmm So the first camera is recording up until 12:04 p.m. and then there's nothing again until 1:09 p.m. The second camera records until 11:05 a.m., then nothing again until 1:15 p.m. The third camera records until 11:05 a.m., then nothing again until 1:16 p.m. And then the fourth camera records until 12:04 p.m. and continues back on at 1:09 p.m.
So, two questions.
Yeah,
One, is it normal for the cameras in the gym to malfunction for a few hours during the day?
they never said that, but they did say that the motion or the cameras are motion activated.
Okay. And two, let me guess. The cameras that cut out earlier than the cameras that come out later are the views of the mats where Kendrick is.
Actually, none of the cameras have a view of the mats. It's very
Even better.
convenient. Very convenient. However, there is video evidence of KJ going into the gym at 1:09, almost 1:10 p.m., which,
Which makes sense if they're motion activated because
yeah,
of the times we have a 108, we have a 109, a 112.
yeah. Unfortunately, when you see him at 1:10 p.m. was the very last time you see KJ alive on video. There's absolutely no video, though, of discovering the body. The last time you see KJ on video is when he's being rolled out in a body bag the following day.
So, do they have footage of any other kids in the gym?
Yeah, there was actually, like, on the videos, you can see there's multiple kids in the gym before KJ even goes in there. So I don't know what was up that motion activated part of it, but like kids were playing basketball, they were walking through it. And the other thing is, like, with all these kids that were in there, no one saw him fall into a mat or anything.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. And especially since, we might not have gotten to it yet, but I haven't heard about interviewing any students that were also on camera in this. Because if we have footage of KJ walking in, we should have footage of every kid walking in and out of that gym with a nice, pretty timestamp. So it shouldn't be that hard to narrow down some witnesses.
Gosh, you're good at this. So there's a few connections,
Woohoo!
specifically Brian Bell and Brandon Bell.
Ooh, are they brothers?
They are brothers, the Bell brothers. So
That sounds
they're
like a shitty wrestling team.
one of them is actually like a state champion wrestler too. So there is a record that Brian and KJ had reportedly gotten into a fight on a school bus on the way to a football game. Brian says he doesn't remember what caused the fight because it was just so small. But Jackie, KJ's mom, and some of his friends say that Brian was pulling on his dreads and was holding his head down. Yeah. And just being obnoxious, like being a kid, which is weird because you're a teenager pulling on someone's hair. They apparently started fighting physically. Like,
Oh, yeah, but it was just a small little thing and he doesn't remember it as that,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. So after the fight, though, they made KJ ride in a police car, and Brian got to sit in the stands and watch the game.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
Are the Bell brothers white?
they are, yes.
Okay, I was just
hmm
curious.
Yes. So the Johnsons also claim that the brothers had made other comments to him saying, like, oh, this isn't over yet. And they continued bullying him at school. So, fun fact for you, the Bell brothers have a father named Rick Bell.
Is he a police officer?
He is an FBI agent.
Oh, that's even better.
Yep. So, allegedly, also, very much allegedly, Rick, their father, apparently said something to KJ about the fight not being fair. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah. So, it's It's a whole thing. It's like a he said, she said thing, but it isn't actually proven if it was said or not.
Okay.
But the police ended up conducting a raid on the Bells property since there was a new case about obstruction of justice against him.
Okay.
There was multiple locations searched. Phones, laptops, thumb drives, discs, etc. Everything was collected during these searches, and it
For everyone in the house or just dad?
everyone.
Okay.
Mostly dad though, because he's the one that would have obstructed the justice,
Yeah.
but everyone. So I mean, it was a new investigation into a possible now homicide.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was believed that there were dealings of obstruction. I'm sorry, obstructing an investigation, destroying evidence, and witness tampering. So, threatening witnesses. So, Brian Bell, the one he got into a fight with, also claims that him and Kendrick were super good friends before and at the time of their death.
And what do other classmates say about that?
Apparently, so Kendrick and his friends would hang out in one section of the like outside, like sitting on stairs or something, and Brian would walk by and like see them, but like weeks leading up to it, like after their fight, he would start going a different way to go to his classes instead of walking by KJ and his friends. So, I don't know. So Brian's alibi though was that he was in a completely different wing in the school at the time that KJ was last seen on video. And Brandon claims that he was at a wrestling tournament, that he was at a wrestling tournament and that the bus left on the 9th, but there was like a schedule saying that it didn't actually leave until like noon on the 10th.
Okay.
I know it's all very confusing. So, with this, only this is all that we have for evidence because they didn't collect stuff, they didn't test a lot. This is all we have. So the case was closed in 2016 as a accidental death since there was insufficient evidence that any maliciousness took place.
Because the police didn't collect and test anything,
Yeah.
nor did they close it off for a crime scene. And if we would have done any of these things, we could have something to go on.
Yeah.
And since the blood wasn't KJ's, whose is it?
I'm right there with you. I understand. However, also in 2016, this was actually when I didn't know about this, and I'm surprised I didn't know about this, but in 2016, the group Anonymous,
Yeah.
they entered the chat
No
about this
way.
case. Yes, they made an entire 10-minute video of all the cover up and like shady shit that was going on. That was wild.
That was insane.
Yeah.
I personally love Anonymous because they just come in and fuck
Yeah.
people up. But two really big things out of that is
Mm-hmm.
one, they told the black students that they couldn't talk to police. And anybody, now, this was any of the students, if they talked, they weren't going to be able to walk at graduation.
Yep.
What is the school covering up? What does the school know that they don't want anyone else to know?
That is the question, isn't it?
I mean, that's why Anonymous came out,
Yeah.
but holy crap.
Yeah. Chills.
I mean, the
Absolute
whole time.
chills.
Yeah. You guys definitely should watch that.
Watch the entire thing. It
Yeah.
actually has a lot of information. But just the ending, I'm like, ooh,
Yeah.
ooh.
But it'll be linked.
Yes. So at this time, there was also an anonymous email that was sent to deputies. I couldn't seem to find it for some reason, but if you can find it, read it. But there's a lot of redacted names and it's a lot. But essentially, what it was saying was 4 people were named during it. And they said they were at a party and they were talking. And it was 2 brothers, and one of the brothers' girlfriends apparently slept with KJ. And the brother was upset. And they're like, we're going to beat him up. And the girlfriend told her friend basically about it.
Well, this fight on the bus is starting to make a little bit more sense.
Yeah. But this is all alleged. We don't actually know if the Bell brothers were part of this email. It's just an assumption and big coincidence.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, assumedly,
Yes.
the bus
So
incident makes more sense now.
it does. A lot of it makes a lot of sense, but they're such good friends.
Yeah.
Besties. So, again, the case was closed in 2016. His family never stopped fighting for justice for KJ. And in November of 2018, his body was exhumed again for a second time, and they gave a third autopsy. And it was the same doctor as before. And
As the second autopsy?
correct.
Okay.
And again, it was blunt force trauma to the right side of the neck and the right thorax.
What was their reasoning for exhuming the third time? Or the second time?
To have a different autopsy done by a different coroner.
Okay.
That's why. So from here, the case is not reopened, unfortunately, right away anyway. There was an affidavit from a witness that says someone confessed to that witness that they killed KJ by striking him in the neck with a 45-pound weight or dumbbell,
Well, that makes
allegedly.
sense with what was found,
Yeah,
allegedly.
allegedly. So his family has been just fighting for him since they found his body. They even eventually had someone reach out to them to make a documentary about it called Finding Kendrick. Oh, um, it's a lot. You find out a lot in this documentary if you haven't watched it already.
I have not, but I'm going to.
You should. You should. So, his parents, the rest of his family, and a lot of supporters marched every single day, 17 miles for
Every
how
day?
every single day.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. And there was multiple protests that happened in Valdosta. One of them even was right outside the courthouse. His family was holding hands and keeping anyone from going in and out. They did eventually end up moving their line inside of the entrance, but they were forced to be broken up, and Jackie and Kenneth were put into police custody and charged with misdemeanors and interference with government property. And all of it was recorded.
Oh, so this is recorded.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So, all the information I'm telling you now is in the documentary because it's not released anywhere else but here,
Okay.
which is, I scoured for information, but police didn't release a lot of stuff, which is sad. So, Jackie said that when they first found his body, they unrolled it, obviously, to find his body, and then he was re rolled back up into it for the police to take pictures, allegedly. But if you look at the pictures of him rolled up in that mat, his body is much further down in it. So, like, kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
In a way, it kind of makes sense. So, the first coroner, Dr. Bill Watson, admits that the body had been moved and said that the scene was for sure compromised. He sent an email to CNN that states, he sent all of this to CNN, and then it stated after he told all of this to them, I would appreciate it if you would destroy this interview with me. I do not want this to be shown whatsoever. I feel that our situation should not be aired.
What?
Yep. So, again, going back to many students leaving their stuff inside of the mats, multiple students made statements that when they leave their shoes inside of the mats and they go to get them, they just push the mats over or like slide them to grab everything out from underneath them.
Yeah, because I'm not jumping headfirst down into a 6 foot tall mat
No.
without a plane to get out of it.
Yeah.
Or
Especially,
somebody there to hold my feet, to pull me back up, or do something else.
yes. Especially because they're not that much taller than him.
Push it over.
Just push it over. Yeah. The family also says there was cuts on his fingers and near his nails that looked like defensive marks. So they think there was definitely a fight. They were also fresh wounds on his hands and fingers, so it wasn't any healing process. So that means it happened close to the death. More information. Are you ready for this?
I'm ready. I'm just taking it
It's a
all
lot.
in.
There's going to be a lot for you to take in. So Michael Moore, who was the DA at the time, ended up resigning in November 2015.
Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah, just suddenly.
Out of the blue.
Out of the blue. And all of his cases were given to his successor, except the Kendrick Johnson case. It was moved to a DA in Ohio.
In Ohio?
Yes.
We're in Georgia, right?
Yes.
Okay. No, not Florida, not South Carolina. Ohio?
Ohio.
All right.
Yep. And then
Why?
I have no idea. But that's the only one that did. Yeah. Also, allegedly, the DOJ told the Johnsons that they believed that it was a homicide and there was just not enough evidence at all.
Well, yeah, 'cause he didn't
And,
cook, did he?
yep, and they told them, allegedly, that the shoe was planted by his head.
Where was all this back in 2013?
It was probably there. I don't know. There was also a missing FBI report. It was finally found, but it was so redacted. And someone was finally able to find the original and not the redacted report. The original report included more video evidence and in color video evidence. It followed KJ, Brian Bell, and Brandon Bell for the entire day of school. It included what time and where they were. Brian claims that he did not see KJ at all that day, but there are stills from the video that show they walk next to each other at 10 a.m. that day.
Okay.
Yep. So, Anderson Cooper on CNN also sent a reporter, Victor Blackwell, to go and speak to the sheriff at the time, Chris Prine. And this is exactly what was said. Okay. Victor, I got some questions about the Kendrick Johnson case. Chris, I'm not willing to discuss that with you. Victor, why not, sir? Chris, because our case is closed. Victor, the family has some concerns about why some things were not taken into evidence. There was blood on the wall and he got cut off at that time. Chris says, I will not discuss this case with you.
Well,
hold on. Victor then says, why is that? Chris says, because I don't want to.
I'm just really confused that he said that he won't discuss it because it's closed. Generally, don't we not discuss it because it's an open case?
Victor was then also escorted out of the police station out of a back door by Chris.
So how long had the Bell brothers' fathers worked for the FBI?
I have no idea.
Okay.
Yeah, but he had been in there for a while to be an investigator. I do want to point out, though, that Chris Prine is a white gentleman and Victor Blackwell is an African American gentleman.
Okay.
And when I tell you, when he said, I will not discuss this case with you, that's how he said it. There's video of it.
Okay.
Yeah. So, throughout all of the years, there have been so many lawsuits filed because of this case.
Good.
Yeah. The first was the Johnsons. They filed a wrongful death suit and it was dropped for insufficient evidence. Then they filed a suit against the GBI, Sheriff's Office, and the school district for false information connected to the investigation for $100 million. Yep. This case, though, was dropped by the Johnsons because the FBI reopened the case. However,
Okay.
however, the courts were not happy about that. And they nay, we're charging you $292,000 for attorney and court fees, even though they dropped the case.
Are you kidding me?
I'm not. In every single one of these cases, the Bells were named. There was many more, but the Bells specifically, they were accused of murder and for a cover-up. Brian Bell eventually actually had a scholarship to Florida State for football, and it was withdrawn from the school because of all the controversy that happened. Yeah, they just weren't wanting an alleged killer on their team.
Alleged.
Allegedly. Yep. So the Bells countersued the Johnsons for defamation. They ended up settling on the case, and the Bells received $500,000.
So that one got okay.
Yep. The case was reopened in 2021. The new DA, even offered $500,000 of his own money for anyone who had any information on the case. However, this case was then again closed 10 months later. No reason why. He just said insufficient evidence.
I have never heard of a case being opened and closed so much with nothing else being done.
Yeah.
I mean, we are a good 10 plus years past this and no one's talking. No one has come
20
forward.
years. No, 10
10
years.
years.
Math is hard. To this day, there are debates on what really happened to KJ. His family has not given up fighting for him. His friends and family keep his memory alive daily. They also have many, 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 many people in their corner constantly sharing his story and fighting with them. Due to the recent Karen Reed trial,
Oh my God, I've been waiting for you to bring her up this whole time.
I know. Due to the recent Karen Reed trial and all the allegations of another police cover up, KJ's case is being brought back into the limelight again.
Is it still closed?
His
Like
case?
right now?
Yeah, it's closed.
Oh, so we could get it reopened again.
Mm-hmm.
I just, I understand that they have to keep closing it because there's not enough evidence,
Yeah.
because there never was enough evidence in the beginning. But how do we not?
Our producer was a little upset, you guys.
Yeah,
We had
she
a pause
was
for a
air
second.
punching and kicking everything. We had to make sure it wasn't us doing something. No, she was just raging about the
Absolutely.
opening and closing of this case so many times when we
Absolutely.
have cold cases that have been open for decades upon decades and never closed out.
Yeah.
It's just, it's mind-blowing the lack of police cooperation from day one, how much
Mm-hmm.
they were refused to give things to the family and how much they refuse to let students talk to everyone. But why hasn't anyone come forward? These aren't kids anymore. These are people in their late 20s, almost 30s at this point.
Yeah.
Like, you guys don't have anything to lose unless you were a part of it. But if you weren't, like, how can you not be helping this family get justice?
Mm-hmm. So, where do you stand? Do you think this was an unfortunate accident, or is it a cover up to protect other kids? Either way, the world lost a talented, caring, and loving young man in such a tragic way. He will never get to go to prom or win the homecoming game. He doesn't get to grow up or get married and know the joy of having children or get to hug his adoring parents ever again.
You okay? It just, yeah, this is what happens when kids just too soon.
Yeah,
And it's such a shame that he doesn't get to go on and live that life and get to experience everything
absolutely.
and have goals and dreams
Yeah,
like these kids who allegedly know what happened to him do.
absolutely. Well, that's all I got. Thank you guys so much for listening to this week's case.
We hope
Unfortunately,
go. Are you okay to do
I'm
it?
fine.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I don't think we have justice for Kendrick.
No, I will agree with you on that. We don't have justice for Kendrick yet, and I hope that this helps get on a path for getting justice for Kendrick because it
Absolutely.
is a long time coming.
Absolutely. It's definitely a heavy one, no matter what side you're on. It's a lot, but there's not enough. It's sad. So, yeah.
And for those of you who are only listening to the audio of this, in the description, we will have links for the pictures that
Yes.
Kendrick's family shared because they did share them for a reason.
Yeah.
They shared them because they want them to be seen. They want people to see what happened to him. Yes, they are graphic. Yes, they are a lot, but I feel that we owe it to Kendrick
Yeah.
and his family to get him justice.
Absolutely. And if you have a chance, also go watch the Finding Kendrick Johnson documentary. There's a lot of information I didn't even put out there.
Oh yeah, I'm watching it tonight. I didn't
Absolutely.
even know it was out there.
Yes. But thanks again for listening, you guys. Keep an eye out on our socials for a new WTF episode this week. And make sure to come back next Tuesday for a deep dive on another case. Love you guys. Bye.